Welcome to the Coffee with Counsel podcast with your host, Grace St. Clair. In each episode, we'll have guests such as real estate brokers, financial advisors, accountants, and attorneys who will share their expertise and real stories of how people get in and out of a mess in a variety of circumstances. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on our website, qualityestateplanning.com. Now, here's the host of Coffee with Counsel, Grace St. Clair.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another special podcast with my special guest, John Corrales. Just a little bit about why I do this. Many of my clients always have problems and they want to know more about what we do. So I'm creating a situation where we can share more about our past messes that people get into and how we help them out of those. So basically, I'm an estate planning attorney and I represent families and small businesses, and we help them plan their estates, obviously to avoid family arguments. That's the first thing that occurs. Then also unnecessary governmental interference. I can't tell you how much governmental interference can affect your life in a very bad way. So my tagline is, remember, it's never too early to plan your estate if you want to keep the state out of your business. And the reason why I use that is because a business is a double entendre. Of course, you want to keep your business, which means your personal business, out of the state. But also many people have businesses, and those are also very important to plan in their estates. But they don't always think about those businesses as important as they do their families. So we help them understand if it's not a W-2, it's probably a business. It could be a rental property with family and friends. It could be a side coaching business. It could be something that you do with your school. But those are also important if they make you money to keep out of the government's bailiwick. So our sweet spot is we serve families, as I said. Our process works for everyone. But mostly we specialize in families and small businesses. We represent the grantors of the trust, and we help them create their estate plans so that they work. And the reason why I say that is when I got in this business, it was because my father went through a difficult probate, and I learned how many people are getting things that don't work for them. We thought we had a trust in place. Turns out my dad couldn't find it, but we had visions of it because there were paperwork around from the assessor's office. The Breer family trust, and our name was Greer at the time. That's my maiden name. And the Breer family trust was in the assessor rolls, but it wasn't on the recorder's rolls. And we find a lot of times people are still doing these kinds of plans today where they don't actually get the work completed correctly, so it doesn't work for them when they need it. And they have to go through probate. So that's one of the things that we do. It's very important to us. Just wanted to introduce John Corrales today. John is a real estate broker. John and I met agent. Okay.
You don't want to get in trouble with, my company.
Right. Okay. Anyway, he's a team leader.
But I do broker reports.
And let's see, I was going to say, so we met on LinkedIn, John and I, and we actually had a mutual colleague in place, and she definitely connected us, Kira Lemonjelly, so I have to thank her for getting us connected.
By the way, I was trying to connect with her for, I know, like a month or two, because I was specifically looking for a trust attorney with that is intelligent and has charisma. And it's actually not that easy to find. So thank God Kira introduced us.
Well, the reason why that is, I meant to tell you this because we talked about this yesterday, is that I actually was a business person first. I hired lawyers, and I couldn't believe how they couldn't help me with my problems. They would tell me things, but I'm like, well, how do I do this? I need to do this project. How do I get it done? Correctly, obviously, and legally. And so I realized, when I went back to school, I've already had a business owner's background. So it was helpful for me to understand how it is to hire an attorney and work with them, and how you have to actually help someone get what they need, which is what they're hiring you.
Well, one of the things that caught my eye about you is that you've got pretty vast experience with mergers and acquisitions. And those are a lot of the clients that that we help. And the importance of that is invaluable.
Yes, it is really important.
And being able to understand from the corporate standpoint down to the small business. Well, I would say down to the small business, to the small business, because the small business can actually be bigger than a corporation too.
Yeah.
And and they go from there because that just that was like one thing that I had seen where like I didn't see anybody else have, and that was that was important. And also, I also looked for people to work with that 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 do altruistic things like philanthropy.
Hmm.
And
Yeah. You do all that.
that give, because that means means two things. One, the first part, that very intelligent, where I call her GGSC. Um, I know, it just sounds works.
Rolls off the tongue.
It just rolls off the tongue, yeah. So, and then I know that when seeing that, the type of philanthropy and everything that you do, that I know you care about other people, and that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to be a doctor at first. That was my original career plan. And my grandfather was a doctor. My grandmother was a dietitian. My mom's a pharmacist. So medical based family, basically. But my dad was a business owner and a businessman, and that sent me in the business area. But I hated science. But I was the smart kid. Of course, they were pushing me to be like my grandfather. I loved what he did. He helped people all the time, especially during the Depression when he delivered babies for gifts because no one had money. And that's when I was raised in a healing family. And so that's why I practice the way I do. But I did not make it past organic chemistry. And I had to think of something else that would work for me. So I ended up going to the paralegal program at USC. And I learned that I was getting straight A's and I really enjoyed it. And I was good at it and I caught on to it. So when I went to go graduate, I had to take all these new GE classes because I had so much science. None of that transferred over to my other degree. So I had to take a lot of extra classes. I did a couple summers where I did 20 units and just got out of there the same year. For some reason, I needed to graduate the same year. So when I went to go find a job, I was not interested in going to work in the file room because I thought that was sounded really boring. But now that I'm an attorney, I understand how important the file room is.
I worked at the file room at Shepherd Mullen, Richard Hampton, right out of SC.
Yeah, it's a crazy place.
I mean, the file room is not. I mean, no matter where you are,
Yeah,
isn't
that's
that
so
big
true.
already?
Now we have electronic files, thank God. But back then it was on paper. But in doing that, I just I went to a lot of interviews. I didn't like the people. I thought these people they're just different. They just weren't me. And so I accidentally found someone who was looking for someone to run their legal department in Beverly Hills. And when I went to the meeting for my interview, I was so excited. I was half an hour late because it was pouring down rain. I didn't know how long I was going to take to drive in the rain. But anyway, I was half an hour late. My dad always taught me to make the best of the situation that you're in. So I took his advice and I just sat down. I said, "Look, I'm sorry I'm tardy, but we only have 30 minutes now. This is what I'm looking for. If you don't have that, then let's just cut our losses and we won't waste any more of each other's time." And they were like, "Oh my God, thank God we have someone like you. That's exactly what we need in this position." So I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I can't believe that worked." But I had to do something to cover up half an hour tardiness for an interview. That's usually a kiss of death. So that's how I got that job and ended up working with the legal department, running it there for an investment firm, which is why I have the finance side. And we were protecting businesses and helping them save a lot in taxes. And the partner at O'Malley was on the other side of a deal with us. He was impressed with me, and so he hired me away from that company. And when I got over there as a paralegal, I was competing with the associates for work, and I knew that I couldn't compete there without getting a law degree because paralegals just didn't grow past the paralegal stage in a big firm. So that's how I ended up starting where I am now. I ended up doing more things on my own than I was doing at the office after I graduated and worked there for a couple of years. And I decided to go out on my own. That was a huge change, but I'm much happier where I am. I have control over my clients and my time, and that's what I enjoy. So I do have time for charity work, but I also do that for my business because a lot of my clients don't have people to give their money to, and they need to know where they can give it to. So I do a lot with Walk with Sally, with Torrance Memorial Hospital, a lot with other groups that are
I love seeing that. Yes.
less known, but they help foster kids who at 18 get dumped out into society. And if they don't know how to manage their lifestyle, and they're with a family that doesn't help them with that, they do need assistance there. So we're always looking for very good localized groups to give money to, because everybody knows United Way, the Red Cross, people like that. But if they want to give money somewhere in their community where they can see the difference and the impact that they're making, that's what we look for. So that's a little bit
Yeah.
about me. Now, John, tell us a little bit more about how you run your business.
Well, let me just shortcut it. Let me just shortcut it in a sense that, as a team leader, uh, I do have by having a purpose and a mission all the time, that, I have two purposes really. My first purpose is really to, get people where they need to be. And it's not where they always want to be, but where they need to be. And sometimes it takes some time for them to get it, but then they understand. And it takes a lot of hand holding to get people where they need to be and to solve those things. My second purpose is to anticipate, really to anticipate what's upcoming with the market, what's going to happen next year. And I pour over reports, and being one of the few uh, realtors that actually does high end and whatever, the entire span. I do the high end real estate, but then all of this, this year I also sold the lowest property probably in all of LA County. 2-acre property out in Lancaster that listed for $3,800, and we got multiple offers at $4,500.
Wow.
I'm not sure if there's another deal. I'll have to look it up to see if that's the record breaker for that. But we do everything else, in between. And my, my specialty is the high end luxury, but I was trained as an asset manager about 12 years ago. Well, a little longer now. Time flies. Having fun. Take my Taylor to college today, right after this. And but yeah, time flies when you're having fun. And I always kind of wondered what that asset management part, being trained, was for, because it it was an interesting business, to say the least. And what it did was that it actually made me perfect for trust and estates, because the process is the same. It's just that in being an asset manager back um, during the last recession, things had to move. I mean, if I had 24 hours to respond, the real rule is you get 24 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Or something like that. And in trust and estates, we take the same approach. And also, the models that we build, we've got creative design in-house, and also have, that's probably one of the biggest things, because the way that we present and put things out there, looks so legit that, I'm going to show legitimate. Um, so that, it's invaluable. And, I have a great team. There's about 14 of us right now. And,
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that team, because that was one of the things that I was impressed by when we first met.
well,
The reason why you created that team and who you pick, what
well,
kind of people fit into your team.
well, the people that it's the same thing. Basically, I'm looking for somebody that actually specializes in something. But a lot of my agents are young. So the first question is basically, what's your favorite home, and what on the market, what's your least favorite home? And depending upon how they answer that question, will first initially tell me, one, are they passionate about the business, or are they in it for the money? And number two, if they're able to name the house, that means that they're agents that are scrolling. Those are the people that, in their free time, I want them on the team because they're actually passionate about property. I can teach them the rest. And it really comes just down to the caring about the customer. So right now I've got basically 4 teams within the Corrales Group. And I know that, I know I can handle, because back 12 years ago, I was handling 50 listings at a time. But this market's a bit different because there's actually more sellers like that I did, that I work with during the day. Like for example, this is a sheet I have it kind of like I have it printed out for me every day.
That's your coach's sheet.
This is my listings and client sheet, but mainly the listings. So yes, coach sheet. So like in case you don't want anybody to,
Yeah.
it's like kind of like yes, run Tampa,
Yeah.
whatever, blue across, across the middle.
I think it's green.
Yeah, over on 2014 the Strand. Yes, something like that. So, it's I look for passionate people that care really, and there's just ways of finding it. And, this is actually the most fun year I've had in business. My 24th year.
Wow.
I just
What year?
25 started last month. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, let's go over one of those people that we work with first, because I think it's really illustrative of what we both do. You referred me to a gentleman whose mother was not doing well, and you mentioned that it was kind of touch and go, and no one really knew what the issue was. But I was able to. I was in that neighborhood, so it's Pasadena. It wasn't exactly close to us. We're here at the beach, but I went and visited her in the hospital. She's a lovely woman, and she didn't know what was wrong with her either, and they were trying to figure it out, but she was definitely worried about getting her state in order. So I made sure that I took all the information and got everything that I needed to get the powers of attorney in place, at least so that she would be able to execute a trust just in case something happened. So we took care of that part of it. And I met her son, very lovely gentleman too. He's very sharp and very kind.
Yeah.
Um, and one of his friends who was hysterical when we were doing the signing, they were teasing each other right and left because one of them would make a mistake and he'd be like, "You should be second, first," and on the agent of the power of attorney. It was really kind of funny. But anyway, I do that because sometimes people need something right away and you can't wait. If you had to call me 9 to 5 only and I'm not available and someone passes, then we don't get to help them. So I do give you my cell phone just in case you need me because these things do occur.
Well, let's just reframe this also too. So, there was something happening, health wise within the family, and it was it was Christmas Eve, and I just happened to be working, and I noticed that the property, like when I was just doing cross checks and everything, that there was no trust in place. So I called the son up and I said, do you not have a trust in place? Plus your mom just went back into the hospital. And he's like, yeah, I'm on legal Zoom right now trying to put together. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. Here's what you need to do. Make your life easier. I need you to call GGSC precinct. And because I've seen so many, I mean, everybody, and also, the people that are the smartest and even the wealthiest do not have their trusts together, or they haven't looked at it in a while. And here's a pretty large estate that had no trust done. And so basically I called, I called you, Grace. It was Christmas Eve, and the day after you poured over the documents and everything, you told me they don't even have the right power of attorney.
Yeah.
And then so this is the 26th of December. So Grace fixed that, and then like we were talking about messes earlier. So this was like an emergency mess where
Yeah.
something's on fire.
Yeah.
And basically, when there's a fire, there's like I don't know if you have boxing fans out there, but like there's that famous Teddy Atlas thing about run to the fire. He's firing up his box in the barn, who was Timothy Bradley. And he's run to the fire. And then, but that's the kind of fire drill that it became. And what happened is that basically, I mean, if I didn't have like you to go to, this made problem because everybody else was gone.
Right.
Or like,
So was I actually. I was in Arizona with family.
So
In my hotel room.
So basically, it was, December 30th. um, I go there with Heather McCauley, and she's also a notary. She does transactions for us, our transaction coordinator, and it it wasn't a fun moment. I mean, she ended up. I mean, the timing couldn't have. You're wondering at times of why you're putting somebody's life. Well,
Right.
it's probably that's really what happened because
She was touching.
well, yeah, and then we got the paperwork done, and then she passed away
Yeah.
later that afternoon. Um, yeah, I just remember walking through the hospital with Heather. We're lost because we were just kind of in a daze at what just happened.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's part of the mess too.
Yeah.
It's really like the internal feeling because you can't help it. I can't help it. Like feeling, this sort of, emptiness, but to fix a mess,
Yeah.
you keep going and you just, you keep putting one foot in front of the other. But basically what happened was that, I mean, over New Year's, I mean, I'm on the phone with Title and Grace, basically, and I'm in the office. I'm not usually the one that puts together legal documents. They're like telling me, okay, put this together is this, put together this. And then I was able to finish it. I was able to finish up, but there was absolutely no way that this estate would not have gone into probate without me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, and then we had we were working on New Year's Day, to basically have
To make sure
to make sure it's done.
Yeah.
And it ended up being it's a very melancholy sort of like, okay, wow. I mean, I'm telling you, this business, trust in the states, is not easy,
Right.
in a sense of like, there's people passing and then dealing with I mean, this was a great client in terms of, the beneficiary of the care.
Right.
But sometimes we deal with like, a lot more than that.
Yeah. Well, he was not completely out of the woods either because this is one of those families, longtime family in America that had a business, but they did not treat it like they should. One of the shareholders, which is one of the children, was suing the company, cost a fortune of that. And it was just crazy. And thank goodness he had us there because it would have been difficult for him to deal with that when dealing with his mother was bad enough. But dealing with his aunt was even worse. And
God, his mom was hilarious too.
yeah,
From start to finish, like the time I got to know her. I mean, that was kind of hard.
I was happy to get to know her too. So that was the coolest thing to actually have gotten to know her. She was such a lovely person. But unfortunately, she was later in life. She chose to have a different medical treatment because she knew it probably wasn't going to help. So they decided the treatment was worse than the illness. So they just went with the illness. But it was sad story. But happy that we got it handled because you've been helping him ever since with his company. But another thing too was that they spent a fortune with another lawyer. I mean, millions. And they never saw that the bylaws don't have their company name, the correct company name in it. I couldn't believe that. Happens all the time, though. Why would you not say we got to fix these bylaws right now? Because that's a problem. That's how the company runs, and there's all sorts of things that aren't included in there. So we're still working on that. But at least because I have that business background, we're able to help people like that.
Absolutely.
So another person that you turned me on to was he had spent with another lawyer $200,000 trying to get someone out of his property. He has a commercial property and the tenant was not paying him rent during COVID, but then refused to pay him what they owed him and are still refusing to pay him. And the unlawful detainer rules are very specialized. You need to be a specialist in that because you just can't keep track of it. So he 2 cases down to the end until he lost them because they didn't fix the notice provision and then there was a wrong phone number on something. So I have a lot of resources on my list of people that I know can get things done, like you and me. That's what we do is we help people get things done because that's what they need. They don't need to jerk around and spend a ton of money on lawyers. They end up doing it, unfortunately. I just spoke to him last night. He is still going with that old lawyer. And he did say what he was looking for was a go-getter that could help him. And he did mention that he called my contact and that he thought he was exactly the right person, but he went with his same lawyer and he's still fighting the battle. So hopefully soon he'll get out of that, but you've got to pick the right person.
That's one of the most difficult, interesting things I've heard in the last 2 days.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Mm.
And he's an older gentleman. He has a lot of property on the beach, but but again, if it's your business, and obviously that's a business. It's his family investment, but it's a business.
There's always time.
Treat it like it's IBM.
Well,
So you hire the right people to get things done.
and there's always time still to get things done. I believe that.
Yeah.
I have that Derek Fisher last second shot that he took against San Antonio, and
Yeah.
I got it from the photographer that took it. My coach actually, he's friends with them, but it's basically where there's 0-0 on the clock. He just literally turned and shot it. And I asked my coach what's the meaning behind this, and he said because there's always time.
Yeah.
And actually, I I just sold a home where they were moving back into this brand new home, Hermosa Beach, and they were moving back in on Saturday, and they were like, "John, we don't think that there's an offer coming in." So they're blah blah blah. I knew I had the activity on it, but I mean, I brought it in. I basically hit the buzzer beater on it, and did that. We're about to close that next week, and it's a beautiful property and everything, but almost, I believe like until the time runs out,
Right.
you just go.
Yeah.
Like
I
there's
do the same. That's why we help that family. Same thing.
So,
As long as there's a chance and I can do it, I will pick it up to make sure it's done. And that's another thing. I had something else I wanted to say about. Oh, I wanted to tell you that I was always impressed with your team when I met them. They came and visited with us when we were trying to sell the property, that woman, and they are very impressive people. So your team is actually worth their weight that you're explaining, because there's so many real estate agents out there, but and there's one for everybody, I'm sure. But you really want a team that's going to work to get you the results that you. When we bought our first house, I hadn't bought a house before. I didn't know what I was doing. Even though I'm a lawyer, you don't know that kind of a thing. So we hired an expert, obviously, to help us. That's what you want. I'm a lawyer. You need estate planning advice. I'm your expert. But as far as the house was concerned, you need someone like John. But I also know John and I know the issues well enough, because I have a real estate background too, to find someone like that. So that's what I do for my clients. I find the stars out there, and we make sure that works for our people, because they always need somebody. And I want to be the resource for my clients, because you have to answer to me,
absolutely,
which is part of the deal.
Well, it's because that I know that you have to answer to the client, and so we give you the answers, on a weekly sheet of like what's going on. So in trust and estates, that's why as a trained asset manager, basically it's, what happened last week, what are the prospects, what needs to be done right now, and where are you going? And I have to be able to, I mean, that's part of the reason why I carry the filter sheet, because I have to keep track of these properties, and make sure that each one of them gets their you know gets their attention. I go down the list, and each day I make about 10 calls on each, and then I'll keep going and doing it, but I put as much as time into it. And then when there's issues, oh, by the way, issues different from problems. Issues is like stuff that you and I can take care of with, one phone call. I mean, issues like, well, like say we have a warehouse, because like in trust in the states, you have the home, but then you also have the investments. So you can be anywhere. Yeah. Warehouse that keeps getting broken into, that's an issue. So, we lock it down, put down like all this, all the stuff that needs to be taken care of. But like when it's, when we're looking at messes, and there's two different things with messes, is that I know I'm going a little off topic here, but we were talking about sort of messes. is that there are short-term messes and there are long-term messes. And I think that what pops into mind, like when there's a mess, is I remember there's kind of like dazzle art type of art that, and it's I don't know, from like over 10 years ago. I haven't seen this painting or this thing since, but basically it's a woman on there just basically says, "Oh my God, I forgot to have kids." And so that's a mess where somebody completely forgot about something, and you know that's going to take some time to solve if she's, it's in that, type of an instance. But usually that kind of stuff that like what's practical to us, I'll talk to somebody and I'm like, wait, I'll say, let me get this straight. You own 12 homes and your business is worth $50 million plus.
Yeah.
And you haven't looked at your trust in 10 years.
Right.
And you have a family. And I was like, well, okay, that's
a mess.
That's a mess waiting to happen. So we avert those.
Yeah.
But then there are messes like the ones we were talking about over New Year's, where you really have to just run to it, throw everything on it. I mean, literally just start throwing buckets of water, put out the fire first, and then we have a short amount of time to strategize and to actually take action on it and do do our absolute, everything we can in that time. And the nice thing about working with you is that, we both know the answers of what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's not like searching and whatnot. Like we know what we need to do to get to that point. And
that's a big skill too, because a lot of times your buyers don't know what they don't know. And that's what they need you for, is to help them find the results of the house that is the house of their dreams. If it's not the one they thought was the house of their dreams.
That might be the biggest problem. That might be one of the biggest issues in life. What we don't know, we don't know.
Right.
That's probably my biggest problem, because if I knew about it, I'd do something.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is why I'm pretty curious all the time. I think the three best things that I look at for like the part of my industry is USC School of Real Estate, and then the number one school I believe in the nation is Wisconsin. And I pour over their reports because those are actual data numbers. But the other thing is because I do also commercial as well, and everything from I can evaluate a hotel. We're doing actually a 15-acre property in Big Bear, thanks to you.
Oh, Big Bear.
Yeah, and I can build. Yeah, sure. And can build 58 homes there. But there's also 5 different ways of developing it. And luckily, I just happened to be born with that skill because my dad was a civil engineer, and I know how to do subdivisions.
Yeah. Well, John, how can people reach out to you if they need to find you for one of these tasks?
Oh, just go outside, and probably just outside in front of any of the houses. I've sold so many houses just being outside. I don't stay in the house. You can't keep me in the house. I guess if it's raining, but maybe
it doesn't rain in California.
I'm actually really easy to find. But it's John. Look at the Corrales Group. I think one of the best places to look is either my own personal website, thecorralesgroup.com, or my LinkedIn, because it actually states really what I do, and which is it has my purpose down there, and it has my mission. Like I just accomplished a mission in July, and then I'll about to start another mission now.
Well, great. Thank you for sharing that with us. So this has been another podcast with Coffee with Counsel. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to speaking to you again the next time we're together. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
You've been tuning in to the Coffee with Counsel podcast with your host, Grace St. Clair. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on our website, qualityestatePlanning.com. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.